Alright, time to do another Cardfight Vanguard ranking. This time on the Dragontree units, and this time it's not going to be by their design, but instead by their ability, because they never really showed an animation for these units, and these are another group of units themselves, so I'm just going to do that by ranking their abilities, and all of them are pretty generic, but depending on nation, they could be more useful than the other. And obviously, I'm not talking about Gryffindor because that's the boss unit, and by default, that's going to be the main focus for building the deck. So instead of talking about having these built with Gryffindor based on nation, I'm going to be talking about these cards based on the other decks themselves. Because you're playing Gryffindor and playing a specific nation with Gryffindor, you have to play these by default. If you're playing it without it, it actually depends on the deck. And sometimes on the nation too, and depends on variety on how useful it is. But in that, let's begin. And remember, these are my opinions. So on the bottom of my list, which is number 5, which is Dragontree, Wretch, Soda, Saka. So first off, just remember all the Dragontree units have this same ability of counterblasting 1, put a Dragontree marker on a rearguard circle with that one. We're going to ignore that, and we're going to go to the second skills for all of them, where in this one's case is back row rearguard circle. Once per turn, when your other unit is placed in the same column as the unit, you can counterblast 1 to draw a card. It's doable in Cater Sanctuary, and in fact in many Cater Sanctuary decks because a lot of them will be calling stuff. The only thing is it worth counterblasting 1 to draw a card. And considering that the other Dragontree units can just straight up call something instead, that could end up being better. Sure, Cater Sanctuary has a lot of superior calling as it is, so you might just want to draw the card, but I'd rather be able to choose what I want rather than the randomness of getting a card. For the design, the Infested Knight looks not too bad. To my number 4, it's Dragontree Wretch Demonstrator. The unique skill is act rearguard once per turn. When your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 2, choose a grade 1 or less unit from Soul, and call it to rearguard in the same column as this unit. Normally, Soul Blasting 2 to call 1 unit from Soul, aka minusing 3 Soul, can be a little devastating, especially for Dark States. But this is Dark States we're talking about, so there is a lot of Soul charging cards, but depending on the deck, you're probably not going to really be able to play this at all, and in fact, many Dark States deck can probably not really use this because there's a lot of Soul Blasting in Dark States as well. So unless you're Boro Magnus, you're probably not really going to play this. But what's nice about this one is that there's no restriction, so meaning that you could just Soul Blast 2 to just call anytime, and you get to choose what you call even though it's grade 1 or less, and it's Dark State, so there's a lot of soul charging. So in a way, you could really just make use of this, but it's probably not going to be really great. Although I say it is better than the Cater Sanctuary one. And design wise, it looks pretty cool. I love the scythe of it, and the demonic looking dragon look. And now to my number 3, Dragontree Wreck Draco Barnacle. The unique skill is auto rearguard once per turn. When your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can Soul Blast 1, look at top 5 cards of the deck, choose 1 grade 1 or less card from among them and call it to rearguard, and of course shuffle your deck. The only main downside about this one is that you have to do it right when your opponent retires a rearguard. The only thing is Dragon Empire is filled with a lot of retired decks, and even if you're saying Nirvana and Jiva don't really retire much since they're doing dress, they still have some retire abilities with some of their units. But not only that, there's a lot of generic retire cards for Dragon Empire, and now with a new Dragon Empire ride line that also retires, yeah, there's actually quite some flexibility with this card, even if you're only calling grade 1s or less, but there are some of the most useful units in Dragon Empire actually. There's Trickstar Trick Moon. Still a bit iffy about putting this in number 3 in comparison to Demon Shredder, because Demon Shredder at least has no restriction and could be done anytime. This one, you have to have a specific timing, but since many of the decks already do it, but it is overall fine. And overall, not too many Dragon Empire decks uses absurd amount of soul without being able to refund it. The only one is that I can think of is just regular Overdress actually. And that really only comes from Esperidia. And as for its design, it looks a little weird. And then to my number 2, it's Dragontree Wretch Lloyd Razaruth. The unique skill is auto rearguard once per turn. When your set orders play from hand and put to your order zone, cost counterblast 1, look at top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 card that is grade less than or equal to your Vanguard and call it to rearguard in the same column as this unit. Better than the Dragon Empire one for 1 that you can call any unit instead of just grade 1 or less. And the other thing is that this is Brankgate we're talking about, so we're going to be able to play set orders pretty much all the time. A lot of recycling back to hand for set orders, I might add. The only one that you can play this deck with is basically Prison. And for Brankgate, this could be very useful as well because those set orders are going to occupy a lot of your your deck, so just being able to call any unit is just very helpful for basically any Brandgate deck. And the fact that there's quite a bit of recycling with set orders in Brandgate, I think this is pretty usable for pretty much most of Brandgate decks. And design-wise, looks pretty cool. I really love the robotic corrupted Dragontree look, and the gun is cool. And finally, what I think is the best Dragontree unit, Dragontree Wreck Bis Ayatvats. The unique skill is Act Rearguard. Once per turn, if your Vanguard is greater or greater, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1. Choose a normal order from a drop zone and put it to your hand. First off, many Stokea decks could use this, because many of them just play the Zorga engine, and with Zorga's regular orders being all generic, yeah, you can definitely play this. Sure, Stokea uses quite a lot of soul, but with a lot of soul charging nowadays for Stokea, except for certain decks maybe, that is also very helpful as well. The fact that you can recycle pretty much any normal order from your deck is just very great. On top of that, no condition other than the counterblast 1, soul blast 1, which Stokea could refund. Sure, Stokea can struggle a lot more with soul depending on deck, but with quite a good amount of soul charging in Stokea, this is quite doable in pretty much every single turn. And I do have to say, it is a pretty good generic recycle engine if you really want to do so as well. And as for design, looks a little weird, but it does fit for Stokea, as Stokea is filled with animals, since it is a forest plus ocean themed type of nation. So that's it for my rankings of the Dragontree units. What do you guys think of it? Remember, this is all my opinion, so there could be a specific order or stuff that I could be missing when it comes to these units that could be used in specific decks, and I am talking about playing them in the nation overall. And also, what do you guys think about the Dragontree concept overall? Honestly, I do like the Dragontree concept. The only thing is, I kind of have a little gripe where you can't play all 5 of these in the Griffle deck. Like, I really want to use all 5 of these in the same deck. But besides that, I really like the concept of these, and I like the corrupted tree nature on them. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.